questions for Coach, and we'll start with Justin.
One of the guys we're going to talk to in a little bit is Shane King, aka Shug. Tell us about the background that you guys have and how you're able to get into Arizona.
Yeah, so I recruited Shug to Marshall, and that's kind of when our relationship kind of took off. And even before I got to Marshall, I was at Purdue at the time being in the transition when Diggy first got there. And so Diggy actually reached out to Shane and sparked his interest. And he was actually at Hightower High School in Houston, Texas. That's where his dad lives. And, that last year of high school, they felt it was best to transfer back to Gainesville with his mom. And so he played his last year in Georgia. And, he played receiver his first 3 years of high school, and he only played really tight end for that last year a little bit, and he was still primarily in a flexed out position. He did a little bit of tight end, but you just saw, his versatility, his athleticism, and then his toughness. And he was always a denser kid. He kind of reminded Diggy and I of Quentin Morris, a tight end that we had at Bowling Green that's been in the NFL now with the Jaguars and Bills for 7-8+ years, of just a dense kid that couldn't ever keep the weight off. Quentin would be 230, and he looked famished. And, Shug kind of reminds us of that, and his athleticism and versatility. And, he just needed a couple games because he's never played the tight end position. And so we watched the first 3 or 4 when we were at Marshall, when he was playing at Gainesville, and we were super impressive. And went down there during our bye week and watched him and started heavily recruiting him and getting involved, and our relationship kind of took off and evolved from there.
You're no stranger to converting receivers to tight ends. Ken Farmer was a guy like that last year. What is it about the process? Like, are there certain things that you see that these guys have to overcome to excel at that position? Like, what's it like for a receiver to go to tight end?
The hardest thing is obviously understanding the physicality and some of the run blocking techniques that you need to use within the core. But as long as they have the mentality to do it, they'll be okay. I'll teach you the rest. And then obviously all the moving parts. We're not going to see many defenses like Danny G's, this year. And so you add those guys trying to understand all the moving parts, 7, 8-man, 9-man boxes, and then where's the ID go from there, and what are the techniques that I have to use. I think that's the thing that takes them the longest, is understanding the box and the IDs and how to operate from there. And then once that starts to slow down with understanding what we're supposed to do offensively, then you can kind of lean into the techniques. And so you see that's where, Shane and Henry, have struggled the most, is they've become, pretty fluent within the offense. They know where they're supposed to line up and what they're supposed to do. But then you get all these moving parts of what technique should I use and how is it applicable because of what we're getting, right? And I think on a week-to-week basis, that'll slow down for them because you're not going to get as exotic pitchers.
Michael, from your perspective, what's it been like to see Tyler Powell's journey since being injured in the season opener last season to where he is now?
Yeah, Tyler, he's unbelievable. I really appreciate the relationship that I've gotten to build with him, and I'm super fired up for him. And so for him to be back on that field now is, been very heartwarming, and I know he and his parents feel the same. And even though he didn't get to play a lot last year, obviously the first play of the year, it's slowed down for him. And so he's able to go out there and play fast and get lined up and to know what he's supposed to do. And so you see the confidence that he still had from the injury. And now the more practices we get in, you start to see some of the rust getting knocked off with taking the proper steps and the footwork, being more confident, getting in and out of routes and changing directions and attacking the ball when it's thrown to him. And so his process has been very fun to watch, and obviously after his parents, I'll be his next biggest fan, and he deserves it. He's worked extremely hard for this opportunity, and there's nothing more that I want for him to go out there and flourish.
Michael and David.
What is your assessment of the tight end room overall so far in training camp?
I've been very pleased with their growth. They've all leaned into the physicality needed to be successful. Obviously, we can clean up on, some of our tracks and some of our hand placements in the run game and, our certain techniques that we're working on counter. But none of them are scared. And they're going to throw it up in there. They're going to be violent. And been super, super proud of them for choosing violence most of the practices. And then obviously, the more practice we get in of understanding who and what skill sets is best suitable for us for certain things in the play action game or, in open sets and things of that nature. But I've been very pleased with how the room has come along, and we just got to do a good job of, now we've kind of really understand what they can do within their own skin, so to speak, and putting those guys in the best situation, who's ever on the field, to go out there and be successful.
Yeah, and then a quick follow-up on what Justin was asking earlier. I'm sure you see a lot of the quote-unquote tight ends more or less playing wide receiver in high school or a flexed out position. How do you know whether they're going to translate into the more traditional tight end or whether to take a chance on them?
Yeah, I don't think you ever fully know, right? No one bats 1,000% in baseball terms. But that's where I kind of really lean into, the families and their upbringing, understanding how they were raised and what their values are. Henry, I know that he's going to be successful at some point because of the values that Leo and Colleen have instilled in him, right? And how tough he is. And his brothers Victor played at, Tarleton and 1AA school and was a very prominent QB, and they're super competitive, right? And so you try to find things like that, and then obviously they got to go out there and go do it, physically as well. But if we're being honest, how many tight ends do you actually see are physical in the run game anyways, right? Most of them are position blockers or want to take the plays off, and they're getting dented on the front side. So, that's not what I teach and not what we do. And so, I'm pretty confident that they're going to be better suited off with what we're teaching, and as long as they got the confidence and physicality to do it, they'll have success. And the prime example is Cam Barmore. Not one time or very few times did Cam Barmore get dented at 235 pounds because he understood the technique and he was confident in getting off the ball.
David and Justin.
Coach, you added a number of guys into the room, veteran guys. You talked about Shane King, and obviously Arthur Band comes in as well. What's his scouting report, and what do you see from him so far?
Which one scouting report? Arthur. Arthur's done a great job. He's slowly getting more confident. He went through probably the biggest transition physically, more so than Shane and Henry with the weight that he added. And so the best thing that he did is he went from, 230, 235 to 250. And so he put that on by the end of spring. And so he's had all summer with CC, Coach Carroll, and his staff to now get a little bit of the mobility back, change the direction, and kind of change some of what was fatty tissue into muscle again. And so as he's getting more used to carrying that weight, which he's never carried before, you start to see the athleticism come back and the confidence. And so, Arthur, like TP, I think he's going to be that guy that can be really successful for you on the front and back side of zones. He's got to drop his hips a little bit more and not bend as much on counter and divide zone. And then he's fluid enough to get in and out of concepts within the pass game. And, he's a converted basketball player back in the day, and so he's got great athleticism and explosion in there. And so he's got to do a better job of reserving his stride length in certain routes and gaining more ground and not being so choppy with some of his things so he can, maintain control in and out of breaks. But been very pleased with what Art has done for us.
Justin and Cole.
We hear all the time about different position groups and how they bond off the field and around the facility. How do your guys connect with each other?
Well, they're a goofy group, so they love to pick jokes, and of course, you guys know we've added Lachlan, our Australian, in the room, and he's always brought a different dynamic to begin with. And so, Cole and TP, I'm super proud of how they've kind of taken the bull by the horns and led those guys, and they facilitated a lot of positive relationships with the young guys, and I think they know that some of the things that they're doing now at a young age that they weren't doing when they first got to college football. And so it's good for them to kind of be, my good cop to Coach Miller's bad cop on certain days. And, they'll hang out together. Obviously, we'll go out to eat. They'll come over to the house. A few of them go to church with me. And so just anything that we can do to build that relationship and, foster, we're all for. And so they're a pretty tight group, and they enjoy each other's individualism for sure.
You worked with him for several years now. He has mentioned that, aspiring head coach someday. In your opinion, what makes Seth Diggy, a guy that could be a head coach?
Well, I don't think Seth could be. I know he will be if that's what he wants. That's how much I believe in him. And the reason I believe that is just his relentlessness for perfection. And it's not about him, yeah, we all have egos, but it's truly not about him. It's about the kids. And he wants to do things the right way. And part of the right way is putting the kids in position to be successful. And if and when he gets that opportunity, I know he'll excel because he always keeps the main thing, and it's about the kids. And just watching how meticulous he is and make sure that Noah's in the right situation, or we're putting the receiver or the tight end or the O-line in the best position to be successful. There's no detail that's too big or too small. And that won't ever change whether he's a coordinator or a head coach. And I know that obviously he excels now, but if and when that time comes, he'll continue to excel in that role.
Cole in the back, and then Michael.
You feel like Cole gives you kind of more of a passing threat in the tight end room that maybe you haven't had it in the past?
I wouldn't necessarily say had in the past because Cam became that for us late in the year. Obviously, with Cam being in the first year as a tight end, it took some time, right? Because his pass catching ability wasn't on par with what he needed to become as a blocker. And then about Oklahoma State week and on, he started to become that, and you guys saw him take off against Houston. Is Cole's strength as a pass catcher? Yes. He's got great body control, great feel for space. He knows how to separate to create, lanes for Noah to throw in. But I've been really pleased with what he's been doing in the run game. And so I think he can be a complete tight end. And like I've said before, I just don't think he's gotten the opportunity to showcase how good of a potential blocker he could be with where he was at previously. And what he's been asked to do in camp, he's been able to execute some of those blocks and more. And then obviously he'll continue to excel in the throw game.
Michael and then Damien.
Noah Fafita obviously has a lot of assets, attributes that people talk about a lot. Does it seem like there's a lot of talk about his arm talent? We've seen several throws during training camp that are kind of those kind of wow throws. What do you make of his arm talent, and how would you compare it to maybe some other quarterbacks you've seen or been around?
Noah is just a completely special human being in general. And I think, like you're alluding to, like his arm talent gets overlooked, but there is not a throw that Noah Fafita can't make. And if Noah Fafita misses a throw, and Coach Diggy would tell you that, it's probably primarily more of his feet and getting his feet set. But there is not a throw that Noah Fafita can't make. His arm is second to none. And, there is only one guy that I recall off the top that I watched throw as equally a pretty ball, which was Hudson Card. Hudson threw a really pretty ball. Now the difference was, I'm not sure Hudson loved football. I know Noah loves football, and he's a warrior. And Noah's the best that I've ever been around. From his heart, his mind, and his talent, he's second to none. He's special, and he deserves everything positive that he receives.
Damien in the back.
So Josh, you talked about receivers converting to tight ends. Can you contrast that with Tyler Stain taking a defender and turning him into a tight end?
Sure. I think it's been relatively easy for Tyler. And I say that because I've coached on the defensive side of the ball, and a lot of our techniques that we use are trying to manipulate defensive rules. And so understanding what the defense is doing and what you're getting will allow you to play faster and how to manipulate their responsibilities. And so I try to bring that to the room and get them to understand it. And obviously that's a little bit more, 3.0 and not 1.0 in their development. It takes a little bit while for them to understand. But for Tyler Mustang, he's been able to understand that quicker, obviously playing the position. And he does a great job, every day in the room. If there's a person if all the boys are stumped, I know one person in the room is not going to be, and it's Tyler Mustang. And I appreciate his professionalism that he shows up with every day. I am super proud of how he attacks. He's getting an engineering degree here, so a lot of times he may have to leave practice or weights early, and to make sure that he's getting the grades needed to get that degree. And, specifically some of the classes this summer, he would have to come back and then would PR on his own and squat or clean or bench when no one else is around there. Hooting and hollering and cheering him on like all the other fancy videos you guys see on Twitter and things like that. And so his self-motivation and his drive is special, and he's going to be successful in whatever he does, and I'm super proud of that kid.
Last question will be Justin.
Where Where is Kellen Ford as far as progress in his development?
Yeah, Kellen, he's getting there. He's starting to familiarize with the playbook more and more. Obviously, he's had some extenuating circumstances within this first year, and he knows he's got to take control of that a little bit more and still take ownership. That it's unfortunate, some of the things that he's faced, but as long as he takes ownership and continues to lean into the techniques and the playbook, so when he is ready, he'll be ready to roll. And he's starting to do that a little bit more consistently. And so anxious to get him out there whenever that may be and to watch him start running around and get a true evaluation of him.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Oglesby, Miller, and who? Oh, Ringel.
So he said he lived in Texas and then moved to Florida?
Yeah. Or Georgia.
I'm sorry, Georgia.
Yeah. No, but interesting. Interesting off.
Those guys, true student athlete. Fullback. Goal line guy?
Mustang? Oh.
Power package.
I really hope he's nicknamed after Suge Knight next year.
Would be awesome. You're gonna ask that question, aren't you?
How'd you get Suge? What's the story behind Suge?
As a kid, my mom used to call me Sugar Bear as a kid, and my dad used to call me Suge. So it just kind of, when I got older, my dad just calls me Suge instead of Sugar Bear now. So that's kind of where I got it from.
Does everybody on the team call you Shug?
Yes, sir.
And then how did you come to Arizona? What was your path to the
In high school, I was getting heavily recruited by Diggy and Coach Miller in high school. So when they came to Arizona and I went to Southern Miss, it was more just like I know them already, not getting to know other people. We already had a connection, and I already know what their plan was for me. So it was really that much.
Juan and David.
Tyler, for you, what's it been like since last season's opener to where you are now as far as the journey?
I think it's been great. I think the road, my recovery has been super smooth all the way through. I just got cleared the other day fully to be fully back and doing everything. And I think it's just been a steady process of, rehabbing right after the injury happened and then getting back into the football skills as I got further along in my recovery. And so it's been going well.
David and Jason.
How would you describe just what went through your mind on that first play last year?
It was definitely unfortunate, you know what I mean? Like, when you have like aspirations for a season like I had and then they get stripped away, it's obviously super disappointing. But fortunately for me, I've been able to connect more with my faith during the time of rehab, and I know God has a plan for all of us. And so, I'm really trying to trust in that and trust in the process of really just trying to get back as quickly as possible.
Looks like you have a lot of the faith on your sleeve there.
Yeah.
What is that design and what kind of prompted that?
So this is actually from a retreat I went on in high school. I went to Brophy, which is the Catholic high school, and the retreat's called Kairos. And this is the Kairos cross that we get when we come back from retreat, and so that's just something that really means a lot to me. So,
Jason and then Michael.
For Tyler, is there any hesitancy in the back of your mind? I know we talked to some guys before that have had injuries, and maybe it's kind of slow getting back there mentally, having the injury in the back of their mind. Is anything like that for you, or how do you kind of get past that?
I feel like for me, coming back, especially over the summer, it felt a little rusty. I think there were some movements that maybe it was like, it feels kind of weird to do this again. But I feel like I've worked that out and got to a point where now I don't even really think about my knee when I'm playing anymore, which is I'm super fortunate. And fortunately for the injury itself, happened on a pass pro like blocking scheme, so I don't really have as much of a mental block when it comes to running routes and stuff, which I'm super grateful for.
Shane, how's the competition in the room been so far, and how have those guys kind of pushed you?
Yes, sir. It's been great. I have 2 older guys above me, just learning from them and them teaching me everything. And I'm teaching them stuff too as well, like just route running and stuff, and then them teaching me the blocking game and just being smarter as a player. It's been really good.
Michael and then Cole.
Shane, who are the guys who you feel like are your mentors?
Definitely Cole and TP. They teach me a lot, like a lot. And then I can say Noah as well. Just watching film with him after practices, it just helps me a lot and just learning the game. Yes, sir.
Coach Miller said that you were sort of a flex position, like a more of a wide receiver-ish player in high school. What has the transition been like from doing that to what he asks of his tight ends?
I would say in high school, I was just mostly blocking on the perimeter, running routes. Against top corners and DBs in the country. So just moving in and play tight end, I always had the mentality to, I'm not gonna turn down anything. So I just feel like just learning all the footsteps and footwork and everything, it's been challenging, but it's getting there for sure.
Cole in the back and then Justin.
Tyler, how motivating is it to, they bring in 3 new faces in the room, you miss time, kind of behind the 8 ball in terms of getting up to speed with everybody, but now having a few weeks where you're cleared to get going before the season, how motivating is it to get back out there?
It's super motivating. The guys that Diggy and Miller have brought in are all super talented, and I think Miller would attest to this as well, that the room is in a spot where we're really deep and we have a lot of talent in the room, and so it's really motivating for me to come back and just try to be the best player I can, and kind of use the years that I've put in college football and try to be a mentor for the younger guys, and also get mentored by the older guys as well. So it's been really motivating for sure.
Justin and then Juan.
Tyler, specifically with Shane, what's your impressions of him as a player?
I think Shane's an outstanding player. I think he's one of the most athletic tight ends in the room, And I think he does some things in the pass game that I would love to learn from. And I think he's going to be an outstanding player. And I think, from where I was, in my early stages of my college career, like I think Shane's in a really good spot. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do this year.
Shane, are there any tight ends or players that play this position that you study outside of Arizona?
Kyle Pitts. Last year in my old school, a lot of the players would call me mini Kyle Pitts, so I used to watch a little bit of his stuff. Yes, sir.
Juan and then David.
Tyler, it's pretty well known that Trey Smith, Tay Brown, they're the Mr. Redlines of the program, but Coach Miller said you're a Mr. Redline of the tight end room. What's that connection like with Coach Miller?
I mean, it's great. I think Miller has given me so many opportunities to be aggressive and just really flip my mindset from kind of how I approached the game when I was a younger athlete. I feel like in my first couple years, I didn't really understand that, like, being a violent player and just being physical and just wanting to compete is something that is going to ultimately separate you from the rest of the team and just the rest of the players. And so it's kind of just something that I kind of try to just model my game after that, just having just a violent mentality and just trying to win as much as I can, you know what I mean?
David and Damian.
Shane, you're one of a number of guys from the South on this team. I think this might be the most guys from the South we've ever seen here in Arizona. What do you think lends to that? Do you think where this new era of revolution that we're in maybe allows guys to maybe go a little bit more outside their box and further away from home than traditionally we might have seen, say, 10 years ago?
I would say, I can't really speak of everybody else, but I feel like in my opinion and how I was thinking, I was like, I just kind of like want to get further and further away from home. I want to explore the world, I don't know. That's really what it is to me. I can't really say what everybody else says.
Damian in the back and then Michael.
Tyler, what do you consider to be the most challenging part of just the rehab process and coming back?
I would say just getting back to the speed of the game, and just really something that I've noticed that over the past couple of days of camp is just really just being low in my hips and just being explosive from like a lower power stance. A lot of the stuff that I've been doing is in rehab wise is in like controlled environments and stuff like that. So just getting back out onto the field, doing like explosive movements like that is definitely something that I'm aiming to work on this camp for sure.
Our last two are Michael and then Justin.
Shane, you said you like to explore. What have been your impressions of Tucson so far, and how does it compare to previous places that you've lived?
I love Tucson. Last year Mississippi was kind of, so here it's just way different, I recently visited Page, Arizona for a break, so it was really nice out there too, something I've never seen before. It was just eye-opening, just a blessing to be able to be in a predicament where I can do that. Yes, sir.
We'll finish up with Justin.
What do you think about the weather in comparison to where you've been at in the past?
It's way hotter, but it's not as humid, I could say.
Yeah.
It's scorching hot. It's bad.
And what do you like to do away from football?
I like sightseeing, like just seeing new things. I play the game a little bit. That's about it.
Okay. What's your major at the U of A?
Finance.
Okay. What are you hoping to do with that?
As a kid, growing up, I wanted to be a vet because I'm very interested in like animals and stuff. So, and then I was just thinking about it, like it's way more school. It'll be way more school, and I will have to focus on school more than football. So I was like, let me do finance and get the business major so I can own my own vet. Yes, sir.
What do you think about the culture here at Arizona?
Well, I love it. Like family-oriented, crazy. Everybody just looks at you like they're your son. They're your son. Like they're your dad. Like they just, I don't know how to really explain it, but it's just, I don't know, it's different.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.